Hello and welcome back to the channel. On today's show, what I'm going to do, actually interestingly on the most recent show that I posted the other day, I actually read the preface of the book, Happiness and Well-Being Through Balance and Progress, the PROWIRC Method. And a number of people reached out to me and said they actually enjoyed that. I thought people might like to get an idea of the way the book was approached and the way it was written. Anyone not familiar, obviously it's my first book, so no one knows my writing style or whatever. And some people had asked, how do you approach this book? How do you approach these topics? What do you write like? How do you get around to it? And so I thought, hey, I would read you the preface so you can actually hear my writing and hear my ideas, how I'm going to break into them, and just to see if that would be of interest to you. So because of the good response to that, I decided I'm going to actually take that one step further. And after the preface is an introduction where I actually introduce in detail the various components of the PROWIRC method, before the book starts on chapter 1. And I thought I'll just take the time to read that introduction to you now, if you wouldn't mind. And so you're going to have someone read a little bit of a book to you tonight or today, whenever you're having a listen. And I'm just going to read that to you now. Okay, after the preface in this book, we have Introduction, PROWIRC Areas of Performance. PROWIRC was created to deliver on a very big goal, to assist us in maintaining a positive outlook and an overall feeling of well-being by means of consistent and balanced progress for our whole life, while helping to achieve our desired goals and objectives. When we examine the areas of happiness and well-being, no words encapsulate the guarantee of these feelings more than progress and balance. They are ultimately the components from which humans draw the experience of well-being and contentment. You will either find that statement to be a big new concept, or possibly even a big known concept, depending on your personal experiences and observations. You have only to think for a moment back to a time in your life when you experienced any type of measurable progress, a higher grade, a faster run, a bigger paycheck, a new relationship, or any new personal benchmark of progress, and you will also relate the experience to a very satisfying feeling, a contentment, an experience of well-being that really good times are made of. I have experienced it many times myself and always have been able to get there from time to time and really have been able to enjoy that feeling of it's all good. And I'm sure most of you know what I'm talking about there, but for those who don't, worry not, you will. However, there also seems to have been lurking somewhere down the road a period of give back. Just when you're beginning to enjoy the fruits of your labors, some unforeseen challenge appears, or situations that bump you off track, and certain areas of your life seem to get dragged down and begin to rob you of your feeling of well-being. If we look at the potential reasons for these times of give back or regress, they are quite varied. Ups and downs created by cycles in business, changes in the market, personal surprises, family emergencies, or just an unexplained drop in your feeling of emotional well-being through lack of progress. So just as we need to look at two areas where we need to improve or progress or succeed, we need to look at areas where we can also become vulnerable. So after giving a great deal of reflection and thought as to areas where progress was needed, or to where one should be vigilant with regard to potential surprises or downturns, I identified 7 areas of life where one might be vulnerable, or where some degree of progress was necessary to help insulate us from downward cycles or times of regress. Now I know that in this vein of thinking, writers and teachers have come up with various different interpretations of ways to approach a success program for life and I have heard and read many valuable and credible ideas on the topic. However, if you will consider carefully the ways in which I have broken it down, these concepts and ideas, I think you will find these next few points regarding this system to be key advantages. First and foremost, all the important areas of your life are well categorized and considered within this format, and the plan put forward is to consider them all regularly, as opposed to the idea of being obsessively focused on one area of your life, letting the rest of your life follow along as an afterthought or with no thought. Secondly, the 7 areas are put forward in such a way and with plans to head off potential surprises by delivering more consistent and balanced progress through the regular, thoughtful, and creative consideration of all the areas. Thirdly, the areas all connect and intersect in such a way that attention given to each individual area affects all the other areas, as well as the big picture of your overall progress. Last but not least, balanced attention to keeping these 7 areas in progress can energize and rejuvenate you in ways that you will enjoy to help keep you on a path of progress with a consistent experience of well-being. The PROWIRC title has been clearly defined with a basic explanation at the front of the book, because there was no reason to play the wait and see game when the format is sound and straightforward. Also, I personally never appreciate when a writer keeps the overall concept back until later in the book as some sort of reward for reading on. The areas were put purposefully into an acronym, which creates a word for quick identification and recollection. Now, in this introduction, I will explain the concept of PROWIRC in more detail and discuss the synergistic power of the 7 areas working together before we get to the individual chapters, which will break down activities to get maximum lift and direct powerful results from each area. The first word of the acronym, POWER, describes the various types of energy you will need to power everything in your life, your efforts, effectiveness, and progress, and your capacity for growth. The topic of power will be broken down basically into 2 areas, being your physical and mental power, and examined in detail. You require personal physical and mental power to energize everything you do, and it must be thought of as a separate area of focus to increase your potential in every area of your life. When you consider your power as a topic of importance and as a resource to propel your plans and dreams, you will naturally consider various ways of increasing, enhancing, or freshening up your power to keep it in a positive and progressive state. This added power will heighten your effective energy to all other areas of your PROWIRC. Consider for a moment the value of the exponential growth potential of the PROWIRC system. Imagine how all the areas of your PROWIRC, power, relationships, organization, wealth, image, relaxation, and creativity, when considered and worked on separately, will also become interconnected sources of power for you and your progress and your growth. So the first exciting realization of the nature of this system is an understanding that each of the areas of your PROWIRC complement all the other areas, and that brings its own added source of power. The second word or topic of the PROWIRC system, relationships, is another completely interesting and huge impact area of our PROWIRC and of our life. It's interesting to reflect on because we commit time and thought and hopes and dreams and love to our spouses, lovers, our family, our friends, and yet too often we let those relationships run on autopilot. Think of this for a moment for those in a significant other relationship. Before you were ever in that significant other relationship, you probably considered the idea regularly and you dated. Or you had an idea, strategy, or goal to be open to the possibility. But now, after being in a relationship for a while, how many goals have you set for it to replenish and inspire it to places where it has not yet been? Or think of our children passing us on the way to work, or valued friends or colleagues we haven't seen in a while. It's easy in the business of living to begin to expect relationships to run perfectly on zero maintenance, while we attend to other tasks. But we should never forget that just as good relationships with thoughtful time and care invested can bring joy, happiness, and empowerment to your life and those around you, ignored relationships, taken for granted or neglected, can go off the rails and bring stress like no other kind to all areas of your life. Relationships are not just an area we can afford to have in regress, but just remembering how fulfilling it can be to have them in a wonderful state of progress should be enough to warrant our attention in this area. So in the second area of our pro work, we will look at ways to ensure progress in all our relationships. The third area of our pro work is organization, and it could be called the delivery system of progress. Whether we are talking about our business, our schedule, our personal time, our vacation time, or our garage, the level and quality of organization that exists in each area or situation dramatically changes our experience of that area. A well-organized schedule with all your areas of pro work minded and reviewed can bring us amazing returns such as profits in business, pleasure time with friends, relaxing and nurturing time with family, well-functioning homes, and amazing vacations. Organization is a very important part of the delivery of progress to all the areas of your pro work, and it generally costs little more than effort. We will work together in the chapter on organization to create or tweak your environment of organization according to your needs and desires to ensure effective and stimulating process to all areas of your pro work. The word wealth, the fourth concept in the PROWIRC acronym, is one which brings with it different feelings for each person. Many, but not all, consider the accumulation of it to be the greatest goal of life. People who have it, however, know that it is not a fix-all for your life. They may look to this PROWIRC system for very different reasons than people without an experience of wealth. Those of you with financial wealth will likely look more toward the other areas of PROWIRC which represent a different kind of wealth. That is just as important to be mindful of in the pursuit of well-being. People who have not experienced wealth or have a strong experience of poverty will often tend toward thinking of it as all important, but often don't imagine reaching it as a personal reality. For anyone who does not consider themselves wealthy, imagine for a moment a lottery win or huge inheritance. What would you do with all that money? For many, the idea of wealth is an abstract concept from another dimension as exciting as joining the crew of the Star Trek Enterprise, and about as likely. For all who investigate this PROWIRC system, we will put wealth into perspective and bring it into the realm of the possible to balance the 7 topics of your PROWIRC for a balanced life. If we humans really are what we think, then there are a great number of us failing to consider wealth as a separate topic to be mindful of. Wealth should be considered as an equally important part of your PROWIRC, but by no means of mythical or mystical value. It should definitely be considered as an individual topic of your life for the purpose of making appropriate decisions for your budget, expenditures, savings, investment, and goals. We will consider some practical strategies and generally accepted wisdom for always being ahead in the money department and for keeping your wealth in progress along with your other areas. A very exciting part of your wealth potential occurs when you also factor in the creativity part of your PROWIRC. And when the 7 areas of your PROWIRC are in progress, wealth should not only be a potential, but a naturally occurring experience in the progression of your life. You will see and feel for yourself that the sky is the limit for your wealth potential. We will also discover or rediscover together the natural wealth of having all your PROWIRC areas in progress. For those of you who have not experienced any degree of financial wealth, we will establish the seed of the idea of wealth, and you will experience the joy of progress as you create the plans to build your wealth. For those who have a comfortable experience already of wealth or independent wealth, our study of the other areas will help keep them from going into regress in any of those areas at such a level as to negatively impact some or all of the wealth they have already accumulated. Let's always keep in the front of our mind, and even when we are thinking about or dealing with wealth, that the synergistic quality of the PROWIRC system is the idea of keeping all the PROWIRC areas in progress and in balance, creating an experience of dependable well-being. That's where the experience of true and sustainable wealth comes from. The section of PROWIRC, the PROWIRC system on image, can be as fun as it is interesting. Most people who aren't in the entertainment field or a major public personality of some sort give relatively little thought to the area of image. Why would we need to think about that? It's not like there's anyone watching us. Most programs that we follow for self-improvement or wellness don't even touch on it. So why have we made this a complete topic on par with all the other PROWIRC areas? Why is it so important? The number one reason is not that it defines how others see you, but that it subliminally defines how you see yourself. Let's think about all the times in a day you see yourself or experience your personal image, from the morning brushing your teeth, or any time you look into a mirror, to any time you experience the reception of entering an occupied room. Your response toward yourself, as well as the experience of others responding to you, is recorded subliminally in your brain many times a day. Now, in our conversation on image, we're not going to say how you should dress or what your image should be. What we are going to talk about is being aware that we do have an image and mindful of whether it reflects or projects us in a way consistent with our goals and objectives for our individual lives. It's important. Our family sees it. Our friends see it. Our colleagues, business partners, and clients see it. And we can return here once again and say, we see it. Also, regarding image and the mindful approach to it, we demonstrate it in our homes, our offices, and even in the opinions we put forward and in our actions. So, to have continuity in how we see ourselves or our image in relation to our objectives is very important to our overall progress and success in life. The second R in PROWIRC stands for relaxation, and what a great and important part of the balance it is. Whether we are planning a regular recreational activity for our personal recharge, a family vacation for a family recharge, or just considering our sleep in our regular schedule, this area of life must be mindfully and meaningfully considered. It is important, first for our effectiveness with regard to being well rested and healthy. It is also important to consider our recreational activities for the richness of our life experience and for the enjoyment of our relationships. Not just to keep them functioning between the goalposts, but to really experience them in a meaningful way. For some, this area will be the most surprising section of the entire program, as it helps them take their lives from very logical and pragmatic experience to one of interest, engagement, fun, and enjoyment. How you spend your time you have earned for yourself and for your family can be one of the most important and pivotal areas in your life. And with all the progress we will be making with our PROWIRC life system, relaxation and recreation will be a welcome topic. Prepare yourself for the experience of doing the interesting, exciting, and fun things you've always wanted to do, because that is part of what your life is for. Experiencing the joy of life with the people important to us is one of the best ways to recharge our batteries. It's one of the reasons we do all the hard work in the first place. To enjoy our life and our people. Ever wonder why we recharge actual batteries with a stimulating electrical charge and then attempt to recharge our personal battery with repeat performances of boring lethargic activities? The value of this area to your quality of life cannot be overstated. We will give this topic some needed thought in the chapter on relaxation, and that alone may just change the tempo and flair of your whole life. Creativity is the seventh and final letter of the PROWIRC acronym, and humanity's greatest single resource. In the well of creativity, there is fine art, music, and literature, undiscovered math proofs, solutions for saving the planet, methods of feeding the poor, and traveling in space. There are words to live by and the answers to everything. Sounds like a tall order to fill, but we cannot as human beings let a day go by without stimulating, expressing, or generally experiencing the power of our creativity. If you look up the word create on dictionary.com, it says to cause to come into being as something unique that would not naturally evolve or that is not made by ordinary process. Sounds pretty omnipotent, and it is. In our chapter on creativity, we will explore our wells, our inlets, and our outlets of creativity, and the importance of pumping a little water from the well each day to stay fresh, alert, aware, effective, and creative in the daily pursuit of our personal growth and goals. We will also look at how utilizing our creativity unlocks your youthful energy, power, and vitality for all parts of our lives, and for all parts of our PROWIRC. Please remember the concept of the system is to regularly consider all the PROWIRC areas with the simple objective of keeping them in progress for a life of balance and an experience of happiness and well-being. The ideas we discuss here are really designed to begin your contemplation of each area and keep you in the driver's seat on your own road to discovery. Having all the individual areas of your PROWIRC in progress will then combine to produce exponential growth in your life, so buckle up and enjoy the ride. Well, that's the introduction, and then from there we go into chapter 1, which is power, and then we go through the various other sections, being obviously relationships, organization, wealth, image, relaxation, and creativity. And then as we get through toward the, after we get through those areas of the book and we get toward the end, we actually go into a chapter on scheduling. Because as you know, anytime you start a new system or a new thought process or idea, you have to figure out some way to overlay it or actually work it into what you're doing now to have it work and to be able to implement. Then in chapter 9, we actually, it says on the cover of the book, experience exponential growth. And I use that to define the way that the various areas of your PROWIRC work together when they're all kept in progress to help all the other areas grow. And we're going to just talk about that and again drive that home briefly in chapter 9. In chapter 10, we have a chapter called, it's the last chapter of the book, and it's called Staying Power. And the reason I included that chapter at the end of the book is because one of the very interesting things to anything that we try in our life, any new system, it doesn't matter if it's kind of for your whole life or it's a workout or a creativity exercise or what it is. But, you know, there's times where we are rolling along with it and this is great. We're just going to keep doing that, you know. And then suddenly something happens, you get bumped off track, and before you know it, days go by and you're not doing it. So in that last chapter of the book, you know, the chapter on staying power, we're really going to, what we're going to look at is the ways that when you get bumped off track, as you will, and even though you enjoy these areas, you keep them in progress, you are, you know, living with your full experience of creativity and really enjoying what's happening there. It doesn't take 1 day, 2 days, 3 days before it's 3 weeks and you haven't been doing any of those items. So that, again, that last chapter of the book is going to be a how-to to just get back on track and keep moving forward. Get back on track and keep moving forward. So that never are you going to be starting again, from zero. Wow, I'm feeling like down and what do I need to do? You're already going to have a process for that you got from the book and a method